All right, so I am back with my little corgi sidekick, and she has taken to messing with my phone. She flipped the camera so it was like pointed at the wall and took two pictures. So it's like, huh, cool. So we started all over. So to continue on in the family drama, earlier, let's see, on Sunday, my mom fell on my grandma's porch after I had made the comment that at some point she has to figure out what she's going to do when I'm not around, right? So then she falls, right? Because this is, yes, there are some physical things going on. However, it's more at the energetic level of she doesn't like that because I'm supposed to just, be here forever. I wasn't supposed to have my own life, remember, to cater to her nonsense, right? So when her dad finally passed away, it's just automatically me and my brother's supposed to step up and start catering to her bullshit like she was doing for my grandfather. Even though my grandma's not dead and she's not, she's still dealing with my grandmother, we're still supposed to be dealing with our parents' bullshit on that end. We're not supposed to have our own lives. So that has been an issue, I guess. But yeah, after I made a couple comments about she's gonna have to figure it out because I don't want to be here forever, then magically she has this accident. An interesting thing. Okay, so she apparently has been having dizzy spells. Well, considering that probably at least 95% of what the woman eats is grapes, seems like there might be some deficiencies elsewhere, right? Might make sense. And she will like actively not worry about eating anything except the grapes. Like that's, as long as there's grapes, nothing else matters, right? And she was on this Manjaro stuff, which I have my issues with that stuff from the standpoint of if you're just looking for a quick fix and not going to do anything to make changes to help with the process, it's not going to work. Right? And so she's apparently lost 75 pounds and hasn't talked to the doctor about backing that off at all. The dosage on that stuff. And apparently my sister-in-law has been after her for a while about making sure she gets that checked out so she gets it balanced out with, with the doctor, right? Makes sense. And when the nurse was talking to her yesterday before she was getting released, or as she was getting released, I brought that up because she made a point to say protein, eat protein. It's like, more than just grapes, right? So then of course, the girl draws the thing on the board to show that when you eat something, your blood sugar spikes. And then she said, if you don't have protein, then it just drops back, or it drops back down. If you have protein, then it like levels out a little better and, doesn't just straight drop. So the straight drop is probably a big part of the problem. And yeah, so, but of course, since my mom doesn't like my sister-in-law and won't listen to her anyway, it's like, what can you do there, right? So yeah, but that's like something like my dad was on it as well. I think he might still be, I'm not sure. But the biggest thing was they'd stop with the cravings and whatnot, but they weren't doing anything to make any other lifestyle choices. And then at one point, I don't know if they weren't able to get the Manjaro for some reason. I think that's what it was. Or if my dad just took himself off of it for the hell of it, like he does with everything else. But what happened was as soon as he stopped taking it, all the cravings came back, right? And he goes right back up, balloons right back up because he wasn't doing anything to make any difference anyway. So it's like if it's just a quick fix, it's not going to work, not forever. there's going to be other issues with it. And, here we are with this crap with my mom now. Anyway, today has been a whole dramatic mess in and of itself. So my mom was released yesterday. And it's kind of ridiculous, actually. My dad knows he's not supposed to be driving because he has yet to be cleared for driving from the first strokes, let alone having had a second or an additional stroke recently on top of that, right? And yesterday when we were getting ready to go pick my mom up, he says, how does it say? I'll go get her if you want to stay here, or something to that effect. I was like, you can't drive. You haven't been cleared to drive. I'm driving. And I grabbed the keys before he had any chance to reach for it or anything. And he ended up getting in the car, and it was fine. Yesterday, I ran him to a couple appointments, and it was relatively peaceful. The biggest annoyance, okay, first off, I had to go with my dad to the doctor. I'm not a fan of that, for various reasons, but especially since you don't really care. And it's like, the one thing I cannot do is make myself appear like I care about something if I really don't. If I'm not in it, I'm not in it, and I'm not in it with that man. I don't care. Whatever happens is on him, because he hasn't given a shit about me my whole life. And now that I figured that out, and now that I figured out why I keep getting pulled down so much when I try to do anything worthwhile, just not doing it. So we go to the doctor. I've never met his doctor before, so I have to meet his doctor, and fine, whatever. Of course, they're going through his med list. He just had a stroke. He hasn't been stacking his meds. My mom's been doing that. Mom's broken. She's not there. She knows nothing about it. And then I'm there, but it was mainly as a set of ears more than anything. And the biggest thing was to make sure he remembered to record it, because she wanted to listen to the appointment afterwards. So she said, make sure to record it, right? I was like, I'm not doing that on my phone. You will not have access to my phone. So I asked my dad if he still had the recording app on there, knowing he did, because he's had to go along to some appointments for my grandma and my grandfather, and he's recorded them before. He's also recorded appointments for my mom before. But anyway, I reminded him, so I got it out. We did that. There wasn't really anything worthwhile from the appointment anyway, because mom wasn't there to talk to anything she would have had to talk about. So it was fine. Then we went to McAllister's for lunch. And the thing that was annoying there, every time we have gone to McAllister's the past year or so, he always asks what I get after, right? And last time it was, what is that? I might like that. Of course, I'm not sharing it or anything, but I told him what it was. Yesterday, he asked what it was that I get, and, ended up getting it. And this is another thing that I've noticed is a chronic issue, right? It's like, he wants to know what it is that I like. So when we're sitting there and eating, and I say, what do you think? He can say, eh. That's it. It's always something like that, right? There's always that little power play dynamic of trying to bring me down because I like something, and he's going to try it so he can tell me he doesn't like it, right? So it's like, I know your spiel, dude. I'm done with it. I'm not screwing around with this anymore, and it's just not worth the time or effort. So screw it, right? So he said, it's okay. It's like, I don't care. I still like it. So it's not going to have any impact on me this time. Now that I realize, because that's one of those things that throughout my life, when he's done that, I didn't realize what it was he was doing. But it's like paired with the fact that he's always got something negative to say or has some kind of way to bring it down, to put me in my place, if you will. It's like, I don't care anymore. I like what I like, and if you don't like it, I don't care. So, yeah. So that was the biggest thing there. And even then, like that, it almost seemed like there was a part of him that was kind of irritated at some level that he couldn't get more of a reaction out of me. I was just like, whatever. But especially now that I'm realizing that even on, it's just as simple as something that I like, that he knows that I like. So now we got to bring it down because no, we can't like that. You're not worth that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah. So, okay. After that, we went to the hospital to check in with my mom because she wasn't answering her phone or anything. And said she was probably going to get released that afternoon. But my dad had another appointment, so we had to run to that after we got done there, and then ended up going back to the hospital later. But, we go run to his appointment, and it's fine. And, he got like some monitor or something, heart monitor, they're supposed to wear for a couple weeks. And it's like, I don't need to go back for that one, right? He's like, I don't think so. It's like, good, because I'm not. I'm going to sit right here in the waiting room, and I'll be here when you're done. I had my headphones, and I had something else I was listening to. Because again, I will not go anywhere around my parents without headphones on. It is not good. So I had, I was listening to that in the waiting room. Then we went to leave, and it was fine. Except for then we have this issue where, okay, the air conditioning is on in the car. Well, it's not especially hot outside. We just usually tend to have the air on so there's not all the road noise and whatnot. But yesterday, he was just like cracking the window, right? He says, you don't mind if I have this open, do you? It's like, I don't care. Shit. Anytime I drive the Escape, unless it's really hot, we have the windows down, and, the dogs enjoy sticking their head out and whatnot. So we just drive through. So, it's not a problem for me. I like having the windows open. But when I turned the AC off and rolled my window down, then suddenly he rolls his most of the way up. It's like, I see that. It's like you're just trying to fuck with me and it's not working. So, yeah, they're just little tedious bullshit, right? When we went to leave to pick up my mom, because we went back home first, and we tried to call her several times and she wasn't answering, so we went home. And I was sitting at my desk at one point, and it rings, and it's not a normal ring. It's like, what the heck is going on? I always forget about this. Apparently, when somebody calls me through, like, Facebook Messenger, it has a weird ring. And that's what it was doing, and it's like, why is she FaceTiming me, right? But apparently she did intend to, and she said that she was getting sprung, so it's like, all right, so we'll come back that way. And I went in there and I told my dad that she was about done. I said, I'm going to finish what I'm doing and then we'll head that way. Finish what I'm doing, go get my stuff in my pockets again, keys, ID, all that fun stuff. And as we're getting ready to leave, he says, I can go get her if you want to stay here. It's like, you're not picking her up. You still haven't been cleared from the strokes. And he was irritated by it, but he went along with it, and didn't argue. So he gets in the car, and my little buddy, we go over, and it's fine, pick her up, come back, no big deal. Hi. Please don't hit my phone again. Yeah, so on the way home, of course, she's like, we got the drama going on again, right? Every sway in the road, you don't appreciate how many of those there are until somebody's sitting there going, oh, every little bit. And it gets old fast. So, what are you doing? She's looking at me like she didn't like where I had my feet. Anyway, get back home, get her situated, whatever. And then today, there was another appointment. I'm really sick of taking those 2 appointments already. Today I took them both, and it was apparently for my dad's appointment, or one of my dad's appointments, the rheumatologist or something. And before we leave, he's taking... Okay, gosh, let's start at the beginning. At 2:20 this morning, I woke up because I had to go to the bathroom, right? Told the dogs, too early, they're not getting their breakfast yet, right? And like even had to pet them each and tell them each, too early, not doing it, stay put. And then they let me go back to sleep. 3:30. Ziva. I love this dog. She's especially happy having her raised bed back because now she can put her front feet on the side of the bed and like boop me with her nose. So I wake up at 3:30 in the morning after having been awake at like 2:20ish, because obviously she wants her breakfast, right? So fine, we go deal with the breakfast, and since there was a 9:30 appointment today, it's like, how much am I going to get to sleep, right? I could not fall back asleep for the life of me. I lay there for 2 hours just thinking about a bunch of stuff, and then I finally sat up enough and turned my little push light thing on my headboard and started writing. And there was a lot of stuff that was kind of interesting to think through. I elaborated further on the Succubus and Incubus thoughts the other day, and had another connection, because, okay, so for that, you know, there's the little vision that I had, and then, like, in having some girl basically talk down to me in this vision, like, called her a succubus, which got my attention enough in and of itself, but then also ran through like all these things of, you know, how having to fight to finally come to see myself as worthwhile in spite of all the things that I was, you know, constantly told throughout my life weren't good enough, you know, and I talked about like the deal with the teeth and like all that stuff, and how, you know, there was a lot of years that I wouldn't talk to people because, you know, I thought my teeth were bad and embarrassing because that was what my life was telling me that they were, right? And yeah, they got spots. They're not glorious. They're not white enough, according to some people. You know, like that was the whole thing. It's like just all these different things. It's like I've gone through all of these different layers of thinking myself unworthy or not good enough for people, or, you know, shrinking down and being afraid of using my voice because, you know, because I got made fun of for my teeth or whatever, right? Like those kind of things. It's like there was the level where like my family and like the bullies at school were squashing my voice and making sure I couldn't speak up for myself. And then there's this other level where I started getting made fun of for my teeth once my adult teeth came in because, you know, I ran a real high temperature when I was a baby and you got all the teeth in there but not ready to come out at that point in time. But I ran a really high temperature, and apparently it fucked up the enamel, and I got spots. So, is what it is. Took a really, really long time to get used to that and to become okay with that. And I've talked a lot on here about how, like, like even this one broke last year. It was like the day before my birthday. And I did a video. I like cried at some point during the day because it was another embarrassing thing. Another thing with my teeth going wrong, right? And it was like, at that point, I started my YouTube channel in November 2023. November 11th, 2023. And I did it for a month and a half. And then I had a cap pop off of my tooth that had been there for like 20 years, right? And, I got some stuff from CVS, got it put back in, and it was fine for like a month and a half. And then it popped off again. And it hasn't been back since. Like, I still have the cap. I obviously have what's left of my tooth. At one point it started hurting, but then it really hasn't much since then. So, I was even talking to my brother this morning. It's like, the whole thing has made me wonder how much of the dental work that I had, that I was made to feel like there was some problem with me or with my teeth because I had all this, or I had to have all this dental work done. Like, and then, shit, I got like veneers put on, and then this tooth is fake now because when I was in undergrad trying to take care of my teeth, I was in the bathroom of the dorm flossing my teeth, and the front of this one chipped off. It was like if you go sideways vertically, and then this way, it was like this entire front quarter popped off. And I cried, and I tried hard not to smile or talk to anybody all week. I do have a picture somewhere. I was a personal care attendant and worked with a couple disabled students while I was there, and when that happened, I had pictures with one of them. I want to say it might have been her senior year. She was a lot older. I think she might have even been a grad student. I don't remember what her story was on that, but I know we were hanging out by the water fountain on Ball State's campus, and I do have a couple pictures, but I tried hard not to like smile or laugh like the whole week. And then I think I was kind of aggravated even because I was pretty sure that it probably got my tooth in there. But it was like, what was left of it was like there's like a black spot kind of a thing. It looks dark now, so and it didn't when I first had it done. But that was back in, I was still in the dorm, 2003, 2004, that school year, I think. And I think it was like let's say it was like the last week or something. Anyway, it was hard to get into the dentist, and I had some days before I was able to, so I had to just deal with it, right? And then, then there's the day we go to the dentist to get it fixed, and he saws it down, so it's like this little cylinder sliver left of my tooth. And for some reason, my mom called me while I was at the dentist office. So I go over after he's been working on my tooth, and I'm standing there by this mirror, and I can see it, and it just makes me so sad because I can see this little sliver of tooth. But yeah, it's a lot darker now than it ever was. Like, I don't even know what happened. It started hurting. I wanted to say like 5 or 6 years ago, it started hurting a little bit. And then that eventually went away, but it's like it was always darker after that. It's like, that's weird. No idea. Anyway, so do this thing, YouTube, for like 6 weeks, right? And then my cap breaks off. Or pops off, rather. It's still fully intact. It's just not there. And I was already taking a break from YouTube because there's like, I'd already just starting the thing and starting to speak through things that I was carrying. It was like just starting my channel was enough to expand so much beyond what I thought I was even capable of doing. So then, I have this tooth issue, and it's like, when it came back around time to start up again, I started thinking I was supposed to in February, but I was still dragging my feet about it. And then I had a dream in March. Another one of those weird twin flame dreams. And that was the one where, he was, it starts out the scene where I'm in this bathroom stall. And I think very much just hiding because I've talked about that a lot, right? It's like, so many of my dreams throughout my life I've been in the bathroom. It's like, what the hell is this all about? Especially like in the past, probably 5 or 6 years. But then as I was thinking about it, once I started noticing that, it's like, that actually makes sense, because like all my life, like, okay, in middle school and high school, especially, since I was getting made fun of by my peers, I would just disappear into the bathroom. Can't be, they can't make fun of you if you're not there to see, or for them to see you, right? So just hide in the bathroom in the hallways. It's like, I have had times where I have literally gone out of one class straight into the bathroom, like maybe just a little bit down the hall, and then come out of that bathroom and go down the hall to the next class, like if I don't have to go to my locker or anything. And, maybe it's a couple hallways over, but there's another bathroom in the process. I might, easily have ducked in there before getting to the last class. So 2 bathroom stops, even though I might have needed to go once, might have just needed to hide out. But that's kind of how my existence was, right? I was always trying to hide and go unnoticed, because being noticed just meant pain. So it's like, yeah, let's not do that, right? What's going on with this hair stuff today? I washed it this morning. Now it's all checked up. But anyway, when that tooth broke, I was actively doing the YouTube thing. God, I might have been at a whopping 6 subscribers at that point in time. I don't know. But I remember it's like I was all sorts of wound up because, I was getting ready to do a video and then my tooth broke. And it's like, now what? You gonna quit? It's like, well, don't feel like that's an option, right? So suck it up. Anyway, luckily that was like the last big issue on that end. But there was definitely that moment of, what are you going to do now? Is this where you stop? Because that's what you would have done in the past, right? Because every time anything, if something went wrong, it's like, okay, fine. I was probably like a raw nerve about it or whatever. But 2 things going wrong, that was like an automatic shutdown. Let's abort whatever we were going to try to do, because it's just not safe anymore. Right? So, and with my family, it makes sense. So, I don't know how I wandered down this path, but we're going to follow it through and see what happens. Yeah. As soon as I try to figure out somewhere. Okay, I know. We'll go back to the deal with my parents, right? So, yeah, honestly, and that's part of it with my, how I'd say, if 2 things happened to go wrong, then it was like abort and just like go into hiding. And the shit with my dad, like this little simple shit where he just asks what I get at McAllister's and tries it so he can tell me, it's okay. It's like, even that kind of stuff would have made a big difference back then. It's like, I took all that stuff personally. And while, yes, I feel like there's probably some things I might have been a little extra sensitive on, I feel like there is very good, legitimate reasons for why that is. And that's why we got to work through it, right? So yeah, okay, so. Oh, my brother. Talking to him on the phone. And, yeah, the comment about wondering how much of the dental work that I've actually had done was necessary versus how much of it was, along with, like, that dentist I could absolutely see as being one that, yeah, you need lots of work done, we wants to make the money, right? That kind of stuff. I could absolutely see that with him. He's the one that, when I had a 10 o'clock appointment, I went in, he comes in and numbs me up and then disappears until the numbing stuff is wearing off. And then he comes back, right? So he's the reason I have an aversion to the dentist to begin with. But then, once he finally showed up and he said, raise your hand if you can, or if you feel this and I need to numb you up again or whatever. And I was like, you just got back. There's no way in hell I'm telling you this, that you need to numb me up and go away again. No, I want this over with, right? So I just felt everything he was doing, and it was a really miserable day. And I do not like dentists, period. There is one that I will go to on great rare occasion. I think he had to fix something. He's not the one that did that, because I had that done in undergrad. And he and I went to undergrad together. That's the guy that my mom babysat, him and his brother. And his brother was one of the bullies. But, this guy was always one of the nicest guys that I've known, and of course we went to school together. We all the graduations together, and I think we were in preschool together. We had our there's 5th grade graduation, there's the 8th grade graduation, there's graduation, all those things, right? And then we went to the same undergrad and graduated the same year again. But obviously different schools. Well, it was at Ball State, but I was in the School of Psychology and he was in dentistry. So, big difference there. But yeah, anyway. Brother. Okay. I had to call my brother this morning because I was super stressed dealing with my parents. Okay, so I woke up at 3:30, fed the dogs, couldn't go back to sleep, was up till 5:30. Then I finally started writing. And then it's well, there's no sense in going back to sleep at this point because I had to come over here to Potty Daisy, before I went to take my parents to the appointment, right? So I end up about 6:30, jump in the shower, and I was kind of hesitant about getting ready right away. It's how much time do I need to get ready versus, with everything that I have to do. So I went and I sat on my bed for a little bit after I opened the curtains, and it's yeah, I'm just going to get ready. And then I did, came over here at 7:45 and was here till about 8:30. And then, hello friend. She keeps pecking my finger. She doesn't understand why we're hanging out over here again when she could be hanging out with her friends at my house and running around the yard, running amok. We'll do that after the video. Because then she'll probably just stay over there with me until I bring her back around 10:30. Which is always tedious. Anyway, focus. So, my 8:30 left here. Go back home. Go play in the yard with Gidget for a little bit. And Potty, their dog, the one that they're not doing anything with other than letting her outside and then leaving the door wide open for her to try to figure out the way in, but she never commits, because if you look at her, she runs away, let alone get close enough to shut the door. So yeah, that one will come in with me if I've been out there with my dogs. If she got all her business out of the way, and I tell them we're taking a break, she will sometimes, not always, but sometimes follow us in. And she's at the point now where she will run past me as long as I'm not looking at her. I can hold the door open. Before, the door had to be propped open because she would not she would not go past me. She has now yielded to running past me real quick. But yeah, if I look at her, then she won't do it. Honestly, she kind of reminds me of me back in high school, right? So anyway, I had everybody in, had the back door locked. We're good to go, right? Except for I'm not sure what my parents are doing, but not moving very fast. Eventually, I think at like 10 till 9, they come down the hallway and into the living room, right? I think my dad came out first, and I had gone into my bathroom for a minute, and not to hide. Although sometimes I will hide if I just have to get away from my family, like I'm still not above that. But usually there's going to be like a bath or a shower or something to clear my aura and get their nonsense out of my system. There is a vent or a register right here by my butt. It's got really cold air coming in it. But I don't want to move because then I don't have anything to lean on. Anyway, next time I'll bring my sweatshirt. Then I hear my mom come down the hall. And when I heard her open the door and was getting ready to move that way, I made my dogs go into the bathroom with me. It's a little bit tight, but we can fit. So, I made them come in my bathroom so they were out of the way. Well, so Mom meanders to the kitchen and everything's fine. We got it handled, right? Where she's able to get down the hall without a problem. And she's in the kitchen. And I go in there, and my dad's let the dog out again. Who now, because we haven't been outside playing, won't come back in. I tried a couple times with her, and then finally was just like, screw it, you're just staying outside, dude. We got a dog door. If you wanted to come in badly enough, you'd figure it out. Because she has come in with the other dogs. I have to, have the collar or the leash and try to pull her forward so she's going that way. But as long as the others are right there too, she's gone in with Ziva's butt. She'll go that way. But I have to start her in that direction before she'll finish it. So I'm annoyed because I had the dog in and everything was fine. And then, of course my dad does his thing and, puts her back outside. And so then he goes about and he's running around and doing God knows what, right? It's 9 o'clock. We got to leave. Appointment's at 9:30. She looks like she's under the bed, but I don't think she is. Get my mom out to the car, which is a whole thing because, she got to take her purse, but she can't carry her purse. She wants her water, but she can't carry her water. She wants, I don't even know what all she wanted. Had those things, had the car started with the seat warmers on because it's fucking cold in the morning right now. It's the past couple days when I've gotten in the car, it's why is it so freaking cold? I'm not a fan. But anyway, I had it on and warming up, and Mom's getting in the car. I was what the hell is going on with him, right? First off, okay, before she went outside, he's running around without any shoes on. It's are you going to go? And he's do I need to? It's well, it is your appointment, so that would be ideal, yes. So he disappears and comes back with shoes on, right? So then I get my mom out to the car, and when I go back in the house to check on my father because he is not moving fast. He doesn't move fast, but especially not today. He is wandering around. It's like, what are you doing now? He said, I can't find my glasses. Got like 3 pairs of glasses, can't find any of them. This is not a new thing. I mean, it's relatively stroke related, but he was still doing it before. It's just a lot worse now. And he's a lot slower about finding it. And he was just finally like, I was like, well, your appointment's at 9:30. I was like, I'll just go without him. It's like, all right. So we leave, right? Now, if you're going to break your back, the perfect time to do it is when there's construction on your road, right? So you can't get anywhere conveniently. So, we go out our driveway and there is like a big drop, at least this, from busted asphalt, where they are tweaking the road part of it, but it's a big drop from the driveway. And they dumped some gravel there, the gravel shifted, so it's not there's still a big jump. So of course, go out the driveway. And she's got to moan because going out, there's this drop, right? And then of course, if the asphalt is not smooth across, and like part of it, they have it like shaved down or whatever, and it's like zzz, that kind of noise thing because it's all jacked up. So it's real fun. So then we turn on to the road that I usually take going out there, and it's quick, right? The problem is you don't realize how many hills and sways and little wobbles there are in the road until you have somebody moaning and groaning about every single thing. Oh. She is concerned. Hi. So yeah, that was a thing in and of itself, right? And I got the 90s station playing, and it's fine. I remember, I don't honestly know what was playing most of the time. I just remember it was on the 90s station. Usually, if my mom's in the car, I'll go like 80s or 90s. And then, like all the way up to the blend, but like sticking the poppier type stuff. I stayed in the 90s. And there was a song that came on. I think it was Onyx Slam. And I was like, I knew the song, I remembered the song, but it I don't know, are there any words other than slam, da 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 da? I don't know. Anyway, just the whole thing, right? So it's playing, and suddenly it's a problem. And my dad said something about unbelievable or whatever, and it's like, just sit there and shut up, dude. I didn't say it, but I thought it, and I knew he was talking about the song, and I was ignoring him. So a few minutes later, it's still the same song, so it's like probably more like a minute or so later, some seconds later, we get to the place with the appointment. He's like, do we have to listen to this shit? And, like he does. It's like, oh, no, we don't. So I started messing with the buttons, and I was pissed, right? Because he can't just ask nicely. He has to be a dick about it, right? And I do not take well to that, right? So if you asked, rather than just grunting and groaning and bitching, it would have been another story. But he didn't ask. He was bitching. So I found Octane. And as I'm pulling up to the building, I turned it on Octane, and I think it was Limp Biscuit's Nookie. And I turned it up while I was getting out. I was like, fuck you, dude. But between him bitching, my mom's grunting and groaning about everything because, the road hurts her back. Oh, shit. I wasn't feeling real friendly. Plus, I've been up since 3:30 in the morning. It's like, 3:30, I'm tired. You people are pissing me off, like, way more than normal. But, not that there was, like, a chance for it to be anything other than that. Because it was literally, because I said, at some point you need to figure out how to do this without me around. Well, can't do that, can we? So, clearly there's a malfunction, or we got a malfunction somehow. So here's our malfunction. And yes, while there are physical elements to what was going on, because the whole blood sugar thing and all that stuff, it's still because she has been basically calling this in forever, right? 6 times, at least 6 times this week, she and my father have made some comment about, well, what's next? Like the world's out to get them because he had a stroke last week because he stopped using a CPAP machine for 2 weeks. And now she fell, but she also hasn't made any efforts to, make sure everything's okay with, she said she's been having dizzy spells for a while. Well, why didn't you go to the doctor and get that checked out? Or why didn't you talk to the doctor about that when you went? Because she's not above going. So the thing with hers is he spends as much time as needed with every single patient. So you might be 3 hours past your appointment time. Like I had to pick her up from an appointment, or I had to take her to an appointment at one point where she got out at like 8:30, and I think the office closed at 6 because he was that far behind. But she just likes that he spends the time with everybody and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's a long fucking time to wait on the doctor. And God knows with her, she's kind of like my grandpa. There's so much chit-chatting too you gotta do, right? So then is he just talking to everybody? Yes, obviously about the medical stuff, but also whatever else just happens to come up. So it's like, this just seemed like a fitting shirt today. It's like, since I have to hang out with my parents, we're going to wear this one, right? Anyway. Felt like it's there. Maybe not. But anyway. We pull up to the door. I got the song playing kind of loud at this point. Not extremely, but you could definitely hear it if you were walking around the car, especially with the doors open. I get out of the car, get her walker, take it over, open the door, and, it's like very just to the point, doing what I have to do, and my dad the purse and all this shit, because I'm not going in. And as soon as they got onto the sidewalk, I drove off and went over to like the corner, it was over by the road to park. And I called my brother and I was like, first off, before I called him, I was sending him the little emotionless emoji thing that I talk about a lot. Our go-to when it comes to dealing with our parents and their bullshit. And before I left the house, I think I sent him like 12. And he said, ooh, I think that's a new record. It's like, yeah. And then we got over there and then I sent him a whole bunch. And then, like the first time he tried to match it. The second time he only sent one. He said, I had to drop my kid off at school. I couldn't keep up. It's like, deal. But I called him up and it's like, dude. It's like, you're fucking parents, man. I'm so over these people. And I told him about everything that was going on. And he was just like, and he gets it. Of course he gets it. Because once I started talking to him, it started making sense. And he started to notice some things too. I think we were on the phone for an hour while they were in their appointment. At one point, he stopped at Starbucks to pick his wife something up. And then, at one point, when he goes to drop it off for her, of course, she comes out to the car to pick it up, and she says hi, and we're talking a little bit. And she said, I can't promise much or anything. She said, I don't know what we'd be able to do. She said, but if you need to come out here in a hurry, we can try to help. It's like, I appreciate that. It's like, I'm gonna figure this out. I will make it work. I was like, right now we're just kind of biding the time, I guess, but I'm we're on borrowed time for sure. Now, I like to point out that last month, I don't remember what the bullshit was with them, but I got to a point early on where I had this day where I was absolutely infuriated, and I was like, I will not be here that much longer. And I said flat out, it's like, August is my last full month of being here. I don't know how anything's going to come together, but something's going to fucking come together because I will not be here this entire month, right? I will figure this the fuck out. So, I will say, with that, I feel like the instances of irritation with them are a lot more impactful. And I feel like it's to drive that point, right? That you want it out of here. How are you going to do this? What are you going to how are you going to make it work, kind of a thing? You know, keep working. We haven't found the answer yet, so keep looking. We're not done yet, right? It makes me think of the starfish card from my Animal Apothecary deck. It talks about this maiden that finds a starfish, and she's looking for some kind of healing, and I don't remember the full story, but it's like she tries dancing with it, and she tries these other things, and then finally, in frustration, she bites its arm off. And as she's watching it, you know, its arm starts to regenerate. And then she, you know, makes this connection of she can heal herself. I don't remember how all that part works. But the big part was, you know, the card says keep trying. And it's like, without doing the things that didn't work, she wouldn't have found the thing that did work, you know. So when she bit the arm off, it showed that, you know, the starfish is able to heal itself, right? So then suddenly she's got this other idea, right? That's my little add-in. But yeah, so yeah, yesterday, it's actually kind of funny. Okay, so I also have this Angels and Auras deck by Radley Valentine, and I am drawing a blank on the other guy's name. I'll put it in the description. Doesn't really matter because I don't remember what all the card says. However, I had gotten these cards out, I think sometime last week, and pulled a few out of them, and I had dropped a couple, and I thought I had them all. And yesterday, as I'm sitting at my desk with this little crazy corgi in there with me, she's being all peaceful now. Oh, stretch. She was in there sniffing around, and I looked down next to my desk, and there's a card, and it's face up. It's like, huh. So I pick it up, and it is the self-employment card, and it's talking about you're on the right path, and yes, the things that you're wanting or you're thinking about doing with, you know, being self-employed are what you're meant to be doing. It's like, okay, well, there's still lots of details that I need to figure out on that end, right? Got the brand idea, just need the logo and some things. But yeah. I think I'll probably start doodling some again and maybe see if I can, maybe I can doodle something better. Yeah, it's kind of silly because I know for the thing that I want to draw, I know I want 2 vultures on it, and it's like, thanks to randomly looking at one of the pictures that I had printed off, you know, because I had a bunch of random nature pictures that I printed off, and it was going along with the ones that I printed off from Zubu, you know, with the bear that won the contest, right? So I had a bunch of pictures that I had printed off, and, you know, of course, some were from the zoo, like those ones, the tigress and the elephants, I got like 8x10s of. The bear, I got that picture and another picture. The other one was, it looks like he's leaning on, well, I mean, he looks like he's leaning on his elbows and he has his feet crossed or something. It reminded me of Taz a lot in the picture, and so I got these 2 pictures of the bear printed off, but they were like the small ones. So the big picture that I have in my room is actually the one that was the centerfold, or supposed to be the centerfold. It was the centerfold got flipped over. But still the centerfold, it was just on the wrong way. I don't know. It's still there. It's still the big picture. So I had to trim some of that off from the magazine. That's in the big frame. But anyway, so I discovered so when I was walking the dogs at the cemetery one day, we were going to leave, and I see 4 vultures hanging out on there's one hanging out on, see, that's probably the one I need to use. There was one that was sitting on the tombstone, and then there was like 3 that were standing around this little tiny mouse carcass. I remember we walked past it, and then, and I go to drive past it with the dogs in the car. It's like, oh man, I feel like that's not much of a meal, dudes. It's just this little tiny mouse for 4 big vultures to show up. But, since I had those pictures, I was looking at it one day and it's like, I bet I could draw that. And I did. But I can't draw it the same size. I had to draw it bigger. And I can't shrink it down very well. Like the shrinking in my brain does not work. So I cannot relay the drawing the thing smaller. I have not mastered that technique. That said, I haven't tried in a while either. So I might be able to do it. Maybe this is my nudge to start working on that again. But I had the one vulture that I drew a picture of, and it's a big picture. It's 8.5 by 11 kind of. I mean, the bird doesn't take up the whole page, but that's this page of the sketchbook. And I was like, that actually turned out pretty decent. I suppose I could get the computer involved and shrink it. But again, me and technology are not super good friends. So yeah. Although I did have somebody in class offer to help with some of that stuff. But I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so how the fuck did I wander there? No, I'll wander back because there was still more family drama today. So we end up going to Cracker Barrel for lunch, right? And it's fine. It was basically, we wanted breakfast. So either here or here. We're going to Lincoln Square. We're going to Cracker Barrel. So we went ahead and went to Cracker Barrel because I like their what is it? Bacon and egg hash brown casserole. But then today they had sausage, so I tried that one instead. I like the bacon better. It's so good, but I like the other one better. But we went there. So, of course, my dad doesn't have his glasses, and, he's, virtually blind in one eye. Yesterday, he told the doctor that it's basically like looking through a fog on the right side. So, just licking between my fingers. So he can't see anything, right? So we're sitting there with the menus, and he's just looking like he's getting all grumpy and whatnot. And Mom's like, what are you getting? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, what, because you can't see anything? He's like, yeah. It's like, well, you normally go for the old-timers breakfast, right? And he's like, I might just do that again. So he did, and it was fine, right? Okay. At one point, I mentioned they have these little biscuit beignet things. Now, when I was in Alabama, we go to New Orleans. I went there 9 times while we were down there. Love that city. I feel like I've had another life there. So it's definitely, I would like to go there now that I've made that connection and see if there's more to it, which I'm pretty confident there is. But anyway, felt like I had another life there, so I went, right? So I loved going there, right? So we went there a lot. And obviously got into the beignets because that was the thing, right? So then, we go to Cracker Barrel for lunch and they have them, right? And we've gotten them there before, with my aunt a couple times, and I mentioned them to my mom. She's like, yeah, we could do that. And then while she was taking her time with trying to figure out what she wanted, because of course I was ready, so my dad tells the waitress that we're ready before my mom was done looking, and so of course my mom's like, well, start with them. So I did my thing. My dad did his thing, and he's basically, he says the one thing that he wants, and he's looking at the menu, and then the lady asks about eggs and what kind of meat and all this stuff, right? Goes through the questions. So then it's like he doesn't have to have had all this effort in figuring out what it is he wants. She just walks him through the process. And then it gets back to my mom, and she's like, that came around fast. She still doesn't know what she wants. I don't know how much she was actually thinking through it, because she is medicated, right? I mean, she did break her back. So, yeah. Why are you nibbling my hand? So while she's fiddle farting with that, it's like, we could get beignets. And she's like, yeah, do it. It's like, okay. So I add that in, and then she doesn't end up wanting any. It's like, okay. So my dad had some and I had some, and when she's rejecting them and she tries to put them all, tell my dad to eat more, he's like, no, I don't really like them. It's like, then what? Stay the fuck out of them if you don't like them. You had like 3 but you don't like them. But it's like, we're not forcing you to freaking take them or eat them or whatever. We could have put them in a box and take them home, for God's sake. Yeah. But of course, it's just one of those things where you just gotta kind of talk you down, right? That's how he rolls. I told my brother, it's like, yesterday, it wasn't a terrible day. I said, it seems like when he's around mom, he steps it up extra, like he's trying to prove something. But like yesterday was relatively peaceful, other than a little bit where, the McAllister's thing or whatever. It's like, other than that, it was relatively peaceful. So he didn't make me want to like drop him off on like the side of the side of the road somewhere. So I mean, that was okay, right? That has to be a good sign, right? But then we go to the hospital and we're visiting my mom, and if he's trying to be cute and funny and pull me into this dumb shit, and it's like, no. It's just kind of resisting on that end. But then today, okay, so we go to Cracker Barrel and we eat. And we go to leave, right? And God, I don't think, it's not that there was anything big dramatic or whatever. My mom needed more Band-Aids because when she fell, she also busted her elbow and had to get a couple stitches. So, she got some cash out so I could run in and get her some Band-Aids. Because I'm the only one that moves fast. And, yeah. And it worked out because I needed contact solution anyway. So I went and, I got my stuff. And I got her stuff. I got, like, that chapstick and deodorant with that. That was, like, the extent of my shopping. It wasn't a big excursion or anything. And no, she didn't pay for my stuff. I paid for my own stuff. But I think my mom was trying to get rid of my dad, to be honest. Because, okay, my uncle from Florida is up here currently, right? I've talked about him on here before. Not a big fan. But anyway, he's, I think, staying with a nephew. Nobody else really wants to deal with him staying because apparently he, there were some hard feelings with the fact that he's cheating on his girlfriend, even though he's still with his girlfriend, but he has a girlfriend up here too, right? Girlfriend down there that's like, I don't know, 15 years older than him anyway. And I don't know if she's got cancer or what she's got going on, but she's not in the greatest of health. And apparently, when it was asked of him what he was doing, his comment was, "She's old." It's like, did you not know she was 15 years older than you, and that at some point it was going to age like that? You didn't figure out that's how that worked? Interesting. But you think you can just date around because you found some woman up here who just lost her husband, so, clearly get in on that action, right? Goes back to that succubus incubus thing, though. So, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Okay, so when I was thinking through things this morning and running through the succubus and the incubus thing and the just the realization that it's like it's a story, right? This character, the succubus, right? The story of those is it's intercourse, which that does not have to be the case, but for the story purpose, intercourse with a living man, it's this demon, right? And when she has the intercourse with the man, and especially if she has any of his offspring, they basically suck the life out of the man, right? So then when I had that vision the other day and I was kind of like talking my way through that, I've done a video since then and talked through it on here. There's like, sleep isn't literal sleep. This demon's not literally something that visits you in your sleep, right? It's like this physical existence, the people who aren't awakened and don't want to awaken for any reason, like my parents, right? They're fully content being being miserable and sucking the life out of everybody, right? That's the purpose of it. You get involved with somebody and latch on to their energy so you don't have to have your own life. You just suck the life out of other people. My dad is calling. I am not answering. He's going to have to wait till I'm done. No, it's just really annoying me that it's up there, though. But anyway, so it goes along with that, the idea of being not physically asleep, but energetically, spiritually asleep, right? So, I've talked like with the, with my ex, I talked about the twin flame dream where, the twin flame is there on this stool with like 3 other guys in the band, in one of the bands he's in, and they're all on stools behind this couch, and I'm sitting on the couch with my ex, and I'm just like completely, it's like there's just this anger toward my ex, right? And that was the biggest thing, was the anger, right? And I couldn't move. I was confused as to why these other guys were there, but I was mainly angry the first time with my ex being there. Next time I went into the dream, I realized he wasn't supposed to be there. That's why I was so angry, was because he got access to me when he should never have had access. I've talked a lot about, the different ways we end up in connections with people that we should not be involved with, and how I got involved with him. Especially stay away from those free dating apps, y'all. Those are a very bad choice. Definitely not going to find your quality people there. Anyway, that was a prime example of you get what you pay for. But anyway, as I said, when I was talking through that scenario, right? Okay, so like the biggest thing, and that was this process here this week, was realizing my ex was basically an incubus for my energy, right? It was something that was latched on at an energetic level. And even though I divorced him back in 2019, the dream, I think that dream was 2021. And, the anger was just like the biggest thing. It's like you cannot move beyond the anger, right? And then it was because I realized he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to have access to me because I had, because so much of who I am and my sense of self had been chipped away, by the world around me, by my family especially. That was how he got access to me, right? So, and I talked about like the twin flame in the dream before, like Okay, the second time in the dream, it's like we were talking, but not extensively. But he said, if you need my help, let me know. And initially I said, I feel like I have to do this on my own. Well, but then after that, since I realized, he said, if you need my help, let me know, then it's like, why wouldn't I accept help if this is something I can't shake? Right? So then I've talked about like the layers of that in the dream, the layers of processing through that in the live experience, the experience at the celebration of life for the family friend with the guy who, it wasn't anything that he had done other than stand up from one side of the tent that or the canopy that we were sitting under and move to the other side of the table where my mom and I were at. It was just him standing there started to make me uncomfortable. It's like, I didn't know. It was just that energy creeping in, right? Because people don't have boundaries. That was the ultimate thing. It's like, he's one of those that does not have boundaries. And I felt that energetically. So, so I'm sitting there. It's like, hey, he's making me uncomfortable. How do we get him to move? 11111. And, just putting that thought out there. Of course, when I said it in my head, it was addressed to the twin flame and all that stuff. But, I talked about how like within a few seconds, he starts looking really uncomfortable and goes and sits down by his wife. And then he was like, it was just like the discomfort was increasing until he finally looks at his wife and says, we need to leave. Right? And this is something that actually happened in the lived experience. Like, so this actually works then. Cool. And why have I been so stubborn and focused on doing things alone all my life? It's like, especially in this family, my brother and I have talked about that a lot. It's like, you don't ask for help in our family because they're going to hold it over your head and you're going to be forever obligated to it. Or like, it's this thing of now you owe me, right? Every single time. So we're not interested in that, right? So we would be like hyper independent and avoiding them at all possible costs because we know they're going to be dicks if we ask them for help. So yeah. But then it's like, okay, so spiritually speaking, it's okay to ask for help. Cool. Good to know. And it has been handy several other times. I think that's part of the reason like some of the things that are coming together now are coming together like they are. Even if I have to meander through the immense aggravation with my family in the process, because that's, ultimately one of those things. It's like, basically my family is like a Brillo pad and we're like, filing away the rough edges, right? So because I have to deal with them, I'm finding strength I didn't realize I had as much of anything. So yeah. My stomach's making noises. The dog's going that way, and now I'm like wondering if my dad's going to show up at some point, and he shouldn't, but he might. He was supposed to go check on my grandma at some point, so that was a whole thing too. I was walking the dogs, my 3 and their 1, the one that I tried to say many times, no, don't get another dog. I don't want another project. Well, so my other dog is here. That is basically theirs in name, and they are paying for her stuff. The only thing they do for her is occasionally let her out and occasionally feed her, right? Breakfast. Sometimes sometimes theirs eat with mine. Sometimes if they're in their room with them, then they won't. But they do all eat dinner together, so that's on me, right? So this dog that I didn't want, I was walking that one with mine, and of course, I'm not going to hold it against the dog. It's not the dog's fault. The dog didn't do anything. This one's turning into a little bit of a turd. Here. Okay. So anyway, I'm walking those 4. And I look and see I got a text from the youngest sister. And she asks how mom's doing. It's like, oh, of all the days for me to be irritated at my parents, because of course I had to listen to her moaning and groaning the entire way home too. And twice over the railroad tracks, because going back to that construction piece, since this whole thing is one way, you got to go back that way, which means you got to go over the railroad tracks on the other side of the neighborhood, and then loop around and then come back over the railroad tracks again. Now, you could cut through the neighborhood, and usually I do. However, there's like speed bumps and other things that I knew she was going to bitch about, so it's like, fuck it, we're just going to tracks. But anyway, I was talking to my aunt, and I kind of sent her the rough overview of this morning. She said something about, was I on grandma duty? I said, I am not on grandma duty. I said, I'm dealing with this dog that I didn't want, and I have my other aunt's dogs who, they're on vacation, right? And then my mom does her stupid shit, and my dad's been doing his stupid shit. So it's like, I am not adding any more to that. It's like, it's bad enough. I said I already have the dog I didn't want. I have the dog that I agreed to take care of for the week and a half, and then I have these two. I said, so no, I'm not on grandma duty. Which, increases it for her, really. I told her my dad is supposed to be checking on my grandma some, which, obviously that's not a big help by any means. They get any 4 o'clock in the morning runs, it's be like, call the fucking ambulance, I'm not going. Yeah, but I was just like, no, I'm not on grandma duty on top of that. She was like, why are we still here? Can we please go? Yeah, but that aunt probably doesn't like me too much anymore because I'm starting to get extra mouthy, and she didn't appreciate it when I had the shirt with the upside down cross on it. And the Jesus earrings that said, you're all disappointments. If I got to run more appointments with my parents, that's next, y'all. So, yeah. Oh, anyway, the thing I was writing this morning, going back to the Succubus and Incubus thing, as I was thinking on this thought, so it's like, okay, I said day before yesterday, it's like, I don't count me out of that. So, the connection with the guy that I thought I was going to marry, I was essentially a succubus in that situation, right? Latching on his energy because I was just so convinced that we were supposed to be married. And, I stayed stuck on that viewpoint for way longer than I should have. Okay, I know it's ridiculous, but at the same time, I needed it. Because with, when my ex got involved and, he's like sucking the life out of me the way he did, when I was trying to disconnect from that situation, especially since there was a marriage and all that crap, I needed that memory of the fact that guy at least treated me better. So it's like, I talked a lot about the song, the Snow Patrol song, Chasing Cars, because it came out recently when we went out on our first date, and it played when we were ice skating. It was never our song or anything like that, because he was especially opposed to Lifehouse's song, You and Me, because his previous girlfriend had decided that was their song. So, he had, this grudge against this song and couldn't stand to ever hear it or anything. So, when this other song that I loved came on, it's like, I'm not assigning that to him. It's like, you gotta be, especially worthwhile to have, music attached to you. But, yeah, he wasn't, don't eat that. Or is it? Yeah, it's a cat toy. You don't need to eat that. It's like that song, it's like it was never our song or anything. So it was just one of those songs that I really liked, and that it was one that I did think about him for a long time. And interestingly enough, it started coming across my path a lot as I was working in the process of disconnecting. And every single time it did, it would take me back to, that first date with the other guy. And basically, okay, so where my narcissistic ex-husband was always telling me like how awful I was and I was lucky to have him, kind of a bullshit, even though he was not a super special human. I mean, special some kind of way, not a good way, but he's like talking down to me, and it's like, in that time, it's like, this can't be true, because the guy, the serious boyfriend before him, treated me a heck of a lot better. So it wasn't even that guy at that point. It was just the fact that she's like, we need to leave. This is boring. Okay, thank you. We're almost done. It was just the fact that it reminded me of the fact that somebody else had treated me better. So while my ex was telling me things like he should have raped me when he had the chance and all that fun stuff, it's like, no, it is valid to remember that somebody else did treat me better before. And, both of them, the two guys that I dated before him, it's like, so there are much better options. So whatever got us here needs to not, it just needs to be done, right? So, yeah, so like that song and, that other connection, it's like it was useful in basically pulling me back away from the toxic connection that I was in and helping me to get out of that, because it gave me something better to remember. But then, it's like having that connection there at all, like the sending any kind of energy to him or whatever, it's like, that was still that kind of thing. And it was, it was very much a time when I was like super asleep for whatever it's worth, as far as like the spiritual stuff and the religious conditioning and all that stuff goes to, so it was like latched on to his energy as a means of trying to, not just have everybody else suck the life out of me, which is what my family's been doing all my life, right? So, yeah, so like in that way, it's like I was guilty of that too, right? At that point in time, with the beliefs that I had and the conditioning that I had going into that situation, there wasn't a good connection. It was basically trying to pull somebody else into that lower energy space, so so I didn't have to like basically do the work, I guess. But then, obviously once I got out of the connection with my ex, especially when I realized that, like a big part of that connection was he should not have been there, right? That dream, he should not have been there. And yet he had access to me, even though he never should have, right? But then it's like, I mean, the other one was, we were all in agreement, me and the ex were in agreement with it for a time anyway, which, going back to the other ex, that was an agreement too, except for I married that one. That was a bad agreement to enter into with that one. But yeah, obviously when contracts are involved, that adds a whole new level of it. And so I don't feel like, I would like to tell you that I wasn't as bad, but at the same time, the fact that there was still that thing that I held on to for a long time, that was still essentially, a way of pulling at his energy, right? And, I'm getting completely depleted by the existence that I have all around, but then, what's that? No, I don't know. Yeah, but and then even then, when I after the twin flame thing came up and things started getting purged and really cleared out, the biggest thing that I realized with that guy is like, that wasn't real great either. It's like he treated me immensely better than the one that I married did. However, there was the time he went to his brother's bachelor party in Vegas. And there's a group of 4 of them that went. And when he got back, he didn't say, okay. He did say something that expressed the fact that he resented having a girlfriend because he could have been hooking up with people out there. And there was something where it sounded like he almost... there was the sense that, that if his girlfriend had died or something, that would have been something to get him some action too, right? Because then gets pity from these other girls while he's in Vegas on this trip, right? So, I could just see the wheels turning for him and how, like, all this other stuff started spinning. It's like, and then, God, I think that was in April, and I think it was January when we officially broke up. Was it April? Feels like it was April. I don't know. So there were still several months we were still together. And there were little odds and ends that came up along the way. And then when we were texting each other at work one night because we both worked night shift jobs that were down the road from each other. We were texting and I just randomly blurted out, like on my text messages, like randomly said, I feel like we're growing apart. It's like, where the hell did that come from? It's like, honestly, in hindsight, it kind of felt like there was something else that took over my body for a moment and like put the words on the screen and sent it before I had a chance to process what was happening, right? Anyway, going back to the Succubus and Incubus thing. So it works in all the ways, right? But as I was thinking about that this morning, I was like, so basically, okay. Now that I'm almost now that I'm at an hour and a half-ish, this is a whole other thing. Okay, so I was thinking about how, my brother and I were talking to this morning about how, I've talked a lot about how the big changes that the world's going to see are coming through, like, music, especially metal music, right? Not exclusively, but definitely music, and largely the metal end of things. And I told my brother, it's like, okay, first off, it's like the idea of being refined by the fire. It's like, I think everybody that listens to metal music at some level has kind of accepted their fate as, being linked to the darkness or to hell or whatever, right? And, even inviting it in to some level. It's like the idea of being refined by the fire. It's like, that's metal. Metal is the thing. There's a hummingbird out there. Metal is the thing that is strong enough to be refined by the fires, right? So it's like, that's an interesting point. But then also, because the idea of the phoenix, right, comes out of the flames. So it's like, I've talked a lot about how this earth existence is hell, because we come here and we feel completely separated from everything, because that's the illusion that we're separate from anything, and yet we're actually all very connected, and yet there's like all these things at like the energetic levels that we're not aware of that are going on until we start doing the work to wake up, essentially, right? So it's like, okay, so then if we take this into consideration, it's like, so then basically religion and politics, those that want to keep us in fear of everything and afraid to do anything worthwhile, because we're afraid of hell or whatever. It's like, but we're already in hell, right? This idea of being separated is hell. But the religion and politics are the things keeping you locked in hell. So then you think about like the people, okay, like when anything good happens and people are starting to work together, and then some good, well-meaning Christian comes along to tell you you're doing the wrong thing, right? And to make everybody feel bad. Like, when I was still in Alabama. I think it was, I left in March, and I want to say February. There was the hurricane in Texas. And there was like, I remember seeing a football player said that he would match up to X amount in donations or whatever, and, for hurricane relief. And all these people started feeding into it and helping out with it. And it started gaining a whole lot of traction, a whole lot of momentum. And like, it became this big thing. It's like, this is really cool to watch because people are coming together to help however they can for this thing that happened, right? There's this natural disaster. So then there are people stepping up and working together to bring money together to help the people in the area that had been so badly damaged, right? And then along come the Christians. It's always the Christians. To condemn people because, basically you're not supposed to let one hand know what the other hand's doing, right? So the fact that you're doing this thing that's bringing people together and building something together is deemed as bad, right? So then I was thinking, it's like, okay, had this thought before with like metal music. There are gatekeepers, right? And you're not the right type of metal or whatever, those kind of silly ideas. And what I said before when I was thinking through that idea was, it's something you love. Of course you don't want people coming in fucking it up for you, right? So it makes sense that you would have people that are essentially trying to keep the riffraff out of it. But this morning, it's like, so you got the gatekeepers with like music and trying to keep those like, especially the Christians out of it, right? They don't count. They're just going to fuck shit up anyway. So don't let them listen to their music because, hey, that's what they do is fuck shit up. So then on the other end of that would mean essentially that the Christians, especially religious, political types in general, are the gatekeepers of hell. And they're trying to keep us all in hell, right? So they come up with all these things to keep us feeling like we're separate and divided, right? And trying to keep us from making the connections and realizing that we're all connected and we're all in this together and we can't all do, nobody can do everything, and yet also when we come here, we have this sort of idea of we have to be able to do it all perfectly or it's not going to be good enough, right? But obviously my channel has not been perfect by any means. There's been plenty of kind of embarrassing moments, honestly, but it's like, it was still always the purpose of doing the thing. It's the simple act of putting it out there and taking a risk and taking the chance at saying the wrong thing or coming across wrong to somebody. It's like the simple act of moving forward is what gives you space to build momentum and to gain traction on anything, right? So if you're never starting anything, you're never going to go anywhere, right? Because you're not doing anything. So it's like, while this was like one of the hardest things that I have ever done when I was starting out, it was absolutely necessary. And I feel like a completely different person from where I was starting out. And I'll just take you right back to the video from November 17th when my dad called me a dumb bitch. And like in the video, it's like, I hadn't planned on talking about that, but then it was just like, I have no option. I don't know what else to talk about. I'm frustrated. I'm upset. I don't know what else to do. So I'm just going to talk about it. Right. So then I just talked about it. And then it's like, I think the very end of the video, I want to say I was just like, I fucking hate my life. And now it's like, I am really sick of the situation that I'm in presently, but I actually am able to have hopes for the future at this point because I've talked so much of it out of my system and made such forward momentum on just releasing it, right? Just letting it go and looking at things from a different perspective later on, right? So Anyway, on that note, I am going to wrap it up. This little kid really wants to go hang out with some friends, and they're probably hungry at this point in time. It is 4. So I'm going to go deal with all that, and then watch this over there so I can post it over there while this kid is hanging out with us over there. So anyway, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.